Welcome to Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. We have a long conversation ahead of us, especially as we dive deeper into the political season, considering the opinions and counter-opinions that are making it to the public space. I'm joined today by former spokesperson of the Northern Elders Forum, who now serves as the national chairman of the Northern Reconciliation Group, Dr. Hakeem Baba-Ahmed. Welcome to Political Paradigm, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Terry. Thanks for inviting me to your program.
You know, interestingly, you're in Kaduna, and I thought you had retired to start working, to go back to being a lecturer here in Abuja. Wow, what's going on?
I am a lecturer. I've gone back to teaching. I will never leave teaching. And Kaduna is my town. You're actually recording in my TV and radio station.
All right, very well then. There are quite some developing stories which I'd like to get your reaction to. One of them is the most recent one, which is the NSA has now chosen to take your former governor, El-Rufai, to court over comments he made on national television, alluding to tapping the NSA's phone. How do you react to this?
To be honest with you, I'm extremely saddened by developments since the return of my El-Rufai to date. I know both gentlemen who are the prime dramatist personnel in this drama, unfolding drama. I know how deep their personal relationship was.
And I see one of the poisonous elements of our politics. If it can actually poison a relationship of this nature this deeply, then we are in very serious trouble. I have to begin by that because I need to acknowledge the fact that Nasiru, my former governor, my younger brother, is somebody I've known for maybe 4 or 5 decades. I've known Nuhu for close to 30 years. I've had fairly good relationships with them. I know how close they were with each other, and it is very, very sad to see this relationship just simply degenerate to a point where now the personal relationship is now so poisoned that nobody thinks about the consequences for families, for children, for relationships, for the values of our people. That we are dealing with a situation where 2 friends are threatening to take legal action against each other. But
to answer your question, from day one, the issue, if we go back to history, there was an allegation that Nasiru El-Rufai needed to defend himself against, which is either misappropriation or something of that nature of the funds of the people of Kaduna State. That's the trigger to this whole thing. That question remains to be answered. Nasiru El-Rufai to submit himself to the laws of the country. He has to be investigated. He has to be tried. And the trial should tell the people of Nigeria and the people of Kaduna State whether the allegations against him are genuine or not. If they deserve for him to be punished, he should be punished according to the law. Now, no matter what spin you put on this drama that we're seeing unfolding, you can't wish this one away. The other thing is, unfortunately, the rather unfortunate interpersonal bad relationship he's had with Madam Nuru is now spilling over. And what we're dealing with is not just 2 people fighting. These 2 represent the key pillars of our democratic process in the elections of 2027. Nasiru is a key member of the ADC. Madam Nuru is a key player in the government of the APC. And there's no way you can separate what they're doing or saying against each other from the attempts to influence or to have the upper hand in terms of 2027. Again, that is not a very good thing at all, because from allegations that former office holder has stolen money belonging to his people, you are now dealing with weighty and very profound issues about espionage and about poisons being brought in. This is really, really sad. If the judiciary is the only way in which the judicial process is the only arbiter in this conflict, then we should better pray that the judiciary will be fair and just and thorough, and that Nasiru El-Rufai will not be prosecuted rather than prosecuted, and that Malam Nuhu will not use his office as NSA to give himself any advantage, irrespective of the nature of his relationship with NSA. That's my view.
Okay, so you talked about friendship turned sour, and some would say that there should be a line drawn between that and national security, because apart from the EFCC case, which he is to answer, there's the aspect of claiming to have access to the phone of the National Security Advisor, which many say is a very strong statement to make. And not only does it go against the cybercrime law, it also raises questions about national security, doesn't it? Beyond their friendship breakdown.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Malam Nasu, by character, is a very difficult person to advise. Because if he was amenable to advice, I am sure somewhere along the line there would have been someone who would say, try and do some damage control. This is a government that takes no prisoners. They are alleging, they are trying to throw before a judge to say, we have evidence that while he was in office, Malam Nasu El-Rufai embezzled money or stolen or belonging to the government. Stop there. Don't make this matter worse. There's a program that says if you're in the first ditch, the first rule of being in the ditch is stop digging. So everything else that had happened since his return was just simply escalating and reinforcing the hostility against him. You were dealing with an issue about allegations against corruption. Then you make statements on live television that you or somebody else that you know has been involved in an illegal activity or violation. Then now you write a letter in your own under your own signature, asking the National Security Advisor to comment or shed light on the importation of dangerous substances into this country. How far do you want to go in this issue?
Do you think he should not have? Do you think he should have done? He shouldn't have done that.
Well, I'm saying that if I was advising Nasu under these very difficult circumstances, I would have said, one, you're a very prominent member of the ADC. You are more useful to the ADC as a free man, not encumbered by a lot of allegations and fights. There are just so few fronts that you fight. So try and limit the damage. Focus your attention on getting yourself cleaned up, an allegation that you stole money from the people of Kaduna State. But apparently that advice wasn't given to him, or he didn't want it. Now they are saying we have three issues against you. One, you have to answer questions about your custody of people of Kaduna State's money. Then you have to answer questions regarding the comments you made on live TV that you are involved in bugging my mother about his phone. Now you've written a letter revealing the knowledge you have that the National Security Advisor is in custody or had ordered for poisonous material. One, sir, where did you get this information from? How did you get this information from? And can you prove that your allegations are correct? So if you put all these things together, the point I'm making is that Malam Nasir El-Rufai appears to have ignored that proverb. If you are in a ditch, stop digging. This is not fear. It is self-preservation. You can fight one battle at a time, and then you move on. Otherwise, this administration, as I said, is not the type that takes prisoners. And he's dealing with an issue where it's going to be very difficult to throw politics in the face of people who are insisting that you must be prosecuted for things that you said or you did or you alleged have been done.
I was going to ask you, you know both men one-on-one, and one of the things I've picked from you is that there's a breakdown of friendship. There are those who say that it's political. Is this to be looked at as a political clash between two friends, or should we look at it beyond this friendship and say that perhaps it goes as far as the president in this case, because you understand that Malam Nasir El-Rufai was supposed to work in the administration of President Bola Tinubu, and that didn't go well. He's now turned out to be an opposition.
Well, let me speak about what I know, and pardon me for not responding to what appears to be speculation. Yes, there was a political relationship between President Tinubu, or candidate Tinubu at the time, and Malam Nasir El-Rufai, Malam Nasir El-Rufai was actually one of the people who were pivotal in compelling, what I understand, and I'm using the word here advisedly, compelling President Buhari to withdraw his hostility against President Tinubu running under the platform of APC. And to that degree, he played a very important role in getting not just a southern government, a southerner to succeed Buhari, but President Tinubu himself. So to that extent, and it went all the way to just maybe quite possibly a few days before he was sworn in or cleared or whatever. And then somewhere along the line, some people said, no, don't bring him on board. I don't know who they are, and I don't think I want to go there. So there is a relationship between Tinubu and Nasiru, but there is an even bigger relationship. The president is fighting a very, very vicious battle to come back for a second term. Nasiru is in a camp, a political camp, which is digging deeper and deeper to make sure that the president doesn't come back for a second term. This doesn't make, this kind of relationship doesn't create friendship. Nasiru is Malam Nuhu El-Rufai, Malam Nuhu Ribadu is a key member and trusted ally of President Tinubu. His loyalty is beyond question. I've seen him work, and I can see just how much flack he takes from his loyalty and his commitment to the person and the administration of President Tinubu. That in itself is enough to pitch them together. Now, when there is the underlying foundations of poor personal relationship that have occurred, you can see everything gets magnified. And that is why I would say the simpler way to go about this is put all these allegations on the table. They are legal issues. From the allegations of corruption against Malam Nasir El-Rufai to the allegations that Malam Nuhu Ribadu's line was being backed to now the allegations that poison has been imported by, all these are weighty issues. They must be put at the disposal of the judicial process, and we must know what are the truth or otherwise of these allegations. We cannot sweep them underground on the grounds that simply this is politics. It's not good enough.
Let's go on to something else now. The Electoral Act Amendment Bill. I know that you were one of those who had called for quick passage of that bill, especially considering the controversy around electronic transmission of results with the Senate. What are your thoughts now?
What the Senate attempted to do to provide for two methods. The ECNA, what is the non-digital option, that is transmission of results in real time, alongside the other method that says you record the result at ECSA, okay, the non-electronic, non-real-time option. Some people say it's manual and not entirely manual, because even when you fill the form ECNA, you still have to transmit it by electronic means. But then now what the Senate appears to have done, what the National Assembly, is to say, okay, we will give INEC a choice. You can use two methods. You can use the electronic and real-time transmission of results, where you have the network, where you have the power, or you can choose to use the manual process if you don't have telecommunication. I think that what the Senate has done is a little bit insincere. If, with a year to go, if there are shortfalls in what is required to make sure that at least 95% of the votes can be transmitted in real time to INEC from the polling unit, this government has a duty and an obligation to provide what is needed.
We give INEC discretion and say, choose what method you want. I think it's dishonest, and it is not a solution to the problem. In fact, my view, since you asked, is that we should have only one way. It should be real-time transmission of results as they finish counting and declared at the polling unit. That is the only way. If you do this, there is already an infrastructure on the ground, and there are countries in the world where you can actually go and study what are the pitfalls, how their system works. You can look at the technology in INEC now and see the degree to which you can improve it a point where you will not have a lot of these fears that people are hiding behind, to say no, don't just simply take the risk of having the real-time transmission. I was secretary of INEC in 2003, and we faced a real challenge when we attempted to introduce the electronic voters roll. People told us, you can't do that. You have 69 million manually registered people, you don't have the technology. And we insisted on doing that, and we did. It was the first time that INEC produced an electronic voters roll, voters register. Every person who was registered, we had his fingerprints or her fingerprints, we had their face, we had the particulars of the person, and they had only one vote, only one card. In the past, before then, you could have one person who is registered in 10 different places. We computerized the system. We removed 6 million multiple registrations, 6 million, all in time for the elections. These things are not impossible. When you see politicians cutting corners and say, don't take risks, don't take risks. If the APC's fortune and the APC's interest lies in providing for real-time transmission on the polling day, straight from the polling unit to INEC in Abuja, believe me, Terry, they will provide what is needed for that immediate transmission. I suspect largely APC is reluctant to do this because it is not in APC's interest that the manner in which results are transmitted should be faultless, and that Nigerians will get the results that they wanted.
So do you think this makes a mockery of the Electoral Act amendment process? Because many had described this electronic transmission of results in real time as a game changer, but that's not the only amendment that has gone into the Electoral Act. There are several others, but what do you think this particular amendment does to the Electoral Act amendment, which was intended to improve our elections, especially considering the level of attention that we're getting ahead of the 2027 general election?
I think it's the key element that I hope, as you said, there is a whole battery of changes that are being proposed. None of them has the significance and the weight of this manner in which votes are transmitted. Let me remind you again, you know this, Nigerians know this. You vote in your polling unit, then the results are, the box is emptied, votes are counted, they are declared, the returning officer says this is what this one scores, then it is written down on form EC8A, then you go to the first polling unit, which is almost 5 or 6 depending on the election. There are only about 5 or 6 collation centers. Each collection center represents a potential subversion point. People can change figures. They can turn 40 into 400. They can buy the entire agents in that polling unit. All the agents of the other parties can be bought. We've seen this happen over and over and over again. Unless you actually go straight from the polling unit to the IRF, which is the results, the portal, the facility that shows what the number of votes that you are getting as you go through the day or the 2 days of these collation centers are dangerous and poisonous to our electoral process. The truth is, one of the reasons why almost 80% of electoral cases in this country are not settled by the voters, they are not settled by anybody, they are settled in court. Because politicians don't accept that they are defeated. They will go and say the system was rigged. If they win, of course, they will say, okay, let's win first, and then he can go to court. This is a very poor testimony of our election system. So my plea is, I know it's difficult, but I'm still comfortable. I'm still confident that President Tinubu will rise to the occasion. He has a record as a Democrat, as a statesman. The biggest legacy he will leave this country, unless it is to say, okay, I will not run again, which I think will be great, will be to leave an electoral process that is transparent, that is credible, and that will yield to Nigerians the actual results of their votes.
So, Doctor, I was asking you what your thoughts are if you think that the president's body language suggests that, he is in on it as far as real-time electronic transmission of results is concerned, or do you think that the Senate is acting independently in this case?
Well, I don't think the Senate has ever acted independently. And I think it's virtually lost its autonomy from the presidency, being honest. And I think that it is going to be very difficult for President Tinubu to act at variance with the Senate position. I doubt if the Senate would have gone to the extent that it did without the full briefing and backing of President Tinubu. Nonetheless, I'm one of the very few Nigerians who are fervently hoping that the president will rise to the occasion, think of the nation, think of the future of the democratic process, and just simply tell the Senate to go back and give to him just one mode of transmitting election due in real time. It can work. It must be made to work because this is the only thing that he can do that would sell to Nigerians. After all this noise about trying to rig an election that you virtually won, this is the only thing that will give Nigerians comfort, that what they vote for is what they will see at the end.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Please land on your thoughts. My apologies.
Hello? If the president wants to go down in history as the champion of democracy, I think this is what he's going to do. If he says the Senate recommends and the House of Reps have recommended and the conference committees have recommended, and I'm not going to go against them, I will not be disappointed because that is typical of this administration. But I would say we've missed an excellent opportunity for a president to leave his mark on the democratic process. But hey, let's wait and see.
All right, let's go into core politics now, since you've already taken that position, because we also know that you do not support the re-election of President Bola Tinubu. You had the chance of working with him while for about a year or thereabout, and you chose not to. Your main reason is that at the time, your reason was that the president doesn't have what it takes to address the pressing needs of Nigerians. But that was about a year ago. It's now almost a year ago, actually. When you look back at that position, do you think that in this time frame that has elapsed, that the president has made adjustments that suggest that the needs of Nigerians are his priority?
I haven't seen any improvement in the records of President Tinubu since I left. On the contrary, I've seen a deterioration of three things. The nation is a lot more insecure now than when I left. What I see on the streets and in people's homes and the way people speak, levels of desperation, poverty are more pronounced, particularly in the part of the country, which is the northern part of the country. And I haven't seen a president who has transformed himself into the kind of statesman where he will think of all options that are available. On the contrary, I see a president who is amassing politicians around him in the hope that those politicians are going to deliver him a second term. That is poor thinking. It's not strategic, and it is not the Tinubu that we used to hear about. A good thinker, a strategic thinker, a president who is miles ahead of anybody else. I'm sorry to say that I think President Tinubu will make an even worse president if he comes back to power.
Dr. Hakim, since your position on President Bola Tinubu, there have been those who have questioned whether indeed you oppose the president based on policies and arguments that point towards people, or that you oppose the president because he is from the South. And those who say this point to, I don't know if you've seen that, but it started circulating again, your statements ahead of the 2023 general election, where you said that the North will continue to produce the president, the North has the numbers for it. So many have now questioned if your hatred, so to speak, is against the South.
I don't hate the South. The South is every bit a part of me. You cannot be a Northerner without a South. And Northerners, particularly those who are familiar with what the country, what Nigeria is, know that the North needs the South as much as the South needs the North. I don't hate North, the South. I don't hate President Tinubu. I'm just myself. I look at my country, that country I love, and I see what is wrong with it and what is right. And I take a position on the basis of what I think needs to be done to push this country forward.
Very well.
I have feelings. I don't have a fixed opinion regarding whether a northerner has to be in power or a southerner. I want a good Nigerian who would have a vision of what the country will look like in the next 10 years and who will use his power to push the country in that direction, and not just to be president for what it is worth.
How then do you defend your comments in 2021, which are now being used against you when you said that we will lead Nigeria the way we have led Nigeria before, whether we are president or vice president, and that we have the majority of the votes, and democracy says vote who you want. Also, you had said that a northerner will be president again and the heavens will not fall. How then do you defend these comments?
Terry, if I were you, I would disregard those comments entirely. I've seen them hundreds and hundreds of times. They're completely out of character. They don't reflect me. I'm passionate about the position of the North in Nigeria. I will defend it with my last drop of blood. But I will also defend the rights of the southern part of the country to be as much part of Nigeria as the North is. I've been attributed many, many things. There are people who say, in fact, I didn't really leave Tinubu's administration. I was released by Tinubu to come and campaign against the ADC. I've heard all sorts of things, but let me repeat this. I'm from the North. I have a fairly good idea of what the North needs. I know that we want to fix things under Northern leadership. Unfortunately, they disappointed us. And I've come very far away from this idea that just being Northern makes you a good leader. It doesn't. Any more than being from the South makes you a good leader. And we have a living example in power, President Tinubu. What I've believed in the past, and I still believe in, is that this country now needs good people, not just politicians from one part of the country or the other, who would come in and fill a vacuum of a region they are coming from. That is the last thing we need. The Nigerian situation is so desperate that personally, I will give my one vote to any Nigerian who I believe has the courage, the strength, the vision, and the foresight and the integrity to give this country a leadership that it needs. I'm looking at my children and their children. And I'm not going to waste my time thinking northern, southern, this one, if we don't have this, we will do this. That is what, but I would just simply advise you to ignore. If you go through my profile, you will see millions of those attributes that have been given to me. I don't have any problems with them. People say all sorts of things about me. I have no problem.
But is this to say that you didn't make the comments, or that the comments do not entirely reflect what you were trying to, the message you were trying to?
You said I could never, Terry, I could never have said a northerner must be the president or whatever it is that you said people say. I've seen them. The reason why I can't even remember the wording. Can you remind me of one of them, please? Let me tell you how ridiculous this thing. In 2019, the Northern Elders Forum worked very hard to create a platform made up of Northern Elders Forum itself, or Afenifere, Pandef, or Hanese Indigo, Middle Belt Forum, where we said to Nigerians openly, that was when President Buhari was canvassing for a second term, and we said to Nigerians, don't give President Buhari a second term. This man has wrecked the country in his first term. If you give him a second term, this country will not be recognizable. We did this openly. We did it in front of the press. It is still there when we said so. Now, this is 2019. Now, how on earth would I go down on the records?
Oh yeah, if I recall now, Doctor, I think it came on the heels of when the Southern governors had a meeting in Enugu State in 2021 and said they wanted power to shift to the South. Do you recall now?
Now, so let me put that in context.
Okay.
The situation in the build-up to the 2023 elections, where southern governors would conclave, would gather around in Wike's house or whatever, all of them, irrespective of which party they were, and they will say to the North, 2023 is going to be a southerner. You don't even know, we are talking to you, don't even contemplate fielding anybody. My response at that time was, you don't have that right. The Constitution recognizes only the Nigerian citizen as a candidate. It doesn't zone for presidency. It doesn't say, it doesn't see north or south. And Northerners are not idiots. Northerners can vote for a Southern president. We did this many times. 1979, in 1999, we voted for Obasanjo. In 2011, we voted for Jonathan. We did this many, many, many times. The North is very sophisticated. The point, I think that comment about the North's position was in response to this very aggressive, very demeaning posture of Southern governors who would say to the North, don't even think about it. This is entirely a Southern affair. You've had your turn. We never had our turn. There's no part of Nigeria which has its turn. Parties have turns. Parties have chances to produce presidents. Parts of the country could lay claims to this, but the Constitution recognizes only Nigeria and recognizes that candidates will win an election if they are voted. So I don't think we should waste too much time on this issue.
Okay, let me take you up on something else, because we're talking national unity now, and I recall that in the build-up to the 2023 elections as well, I had spoken with you when you were spokesperson of the Northern Elders Forum, and you had said that the forum would not take a position but would speak to all the candidates to find out which is the best for the North. In your article, which you wrote on the January 15th Armed Forces Remembrance Day, you talked a lot about the need for national unity. If I recall correctly, you talked about the elderly Northerners who paid glowing tributes to heroes who fell 60 years ago. The Nigerian military currently fighting sundry threats in mostly Sardauna's north. You went further to say that the irony was not lost to close observers, because younger Northerners living under very trying circumstances often challenge elders over their obsession with speaking of a great past when the native authority police alone kept Northerners safe. You say that young Northerners ask where the ball was dropped, who and why, and then they ask for specifics on how the North can be regenerated. One major thing you talked about is what happened to the North of the Christians and the Muslims. You also asked about if the military today is hard-pressed to defeat bandits of terrorists crippling huge parts of the North. You say the Northerners want an explanation of the phenomenon of Northerners terrorizing Northerners. That's a lot that you've put together, and it's raised quite a lot of reactions, because many would like to understand what exactly you were trying to say.
Well, it was a lamentation consistent with the time. We were looking back 60 years since the Sardauna and Tafawa Balewa and a few others were assassinated in the coup of 1966, and so that article was a sweeping review of what happened in 60 years, and basically it's decline. The North was a peaceful, productive, hardworking region of this country, way behind the other regions, but working really hard to catch up. We had a leadership that was thoroughly committed to the welfare of the people of the North. Now, the last 20, 25 years, the North has been lagging behind and declining in all the indices of development, including insecurity. And you have to ask these questions. What happened? Who dropped the ball and why? And these are questions for who, we have some answers. The one North that the Sardauna and his colleagues left is now 19 states. The only leadership that we have effectively in terms of possessing power to make a difference in the lives of people are governors. These are the same governors that are moving from parties where people gave them mandates to the ruling party just simply to save their skins, or they think their interests are better served. You can't be a leader if you can't be a leader if all you're thinking about is your own personal welfare and interest. And so the North is poor.
His poverty lies in the quality of his leadership. It's in this tendency for Northerners to think, for people to think, we have the presidency. We never had a president. We never had the presidency. We had Northerners who became presidents, but that doesn't translate into the North having presidency. The North doesn't need to have a presidency to develop and grow. We just need a president who can fix both the North and the South, because the two have to be fixed. Otherwise, I'm telling you, this country cannot grow on one leg. The South needs the North, and the North
Is the South.
This caricature of our politics, when people say, "Oh, there are champions of the North," look, anybody who sits down and tells you that there are evidence that the South bled the North of power and of the economy cannot be telling the truth. Because what you need to ask him then is, where were the Northerners when this your tremendous power and unity and cohesion and your one North, one people? That's what we used to say. Now we see people, Northerners, who are saying we are not Northerners because we are Christians, don't call us Northerners, and Muslims saying we can't. There are parts of the North where you cannot call the prayer. What happened to it? And there are questions that demand answers.
Absolutely. Dr. Baba-Ahmed, let me ask you a question based on what you're saying. Do you think that in 2027, that it would be difficult for politicians to pitch Christians against Muslims, Northerners against Southerners?
No, it won't be difficult. They are working very hard to do that. And you can see the play acting. The Americans are not in Nigeria just for nothing. The Americans are in Nigeria to reinforce this idea that there is a war of genocide against Nigerian Christians. And the Nigerian Muslims are very, very uncomfortable and very angry when they are typecasted into as a group that is just simply going around looking for Christians to kill. The people who kill Christians also kill Muslims. We are all victims of a crime, whole sundry group of people who kill for money, who kill for whatever reason, even kill Muslims who kill Muslims simply because they don't like the faith, the particular strand of their faith as a Muslim. So here we have a government. Presumably somebody sat down there and said, if you allow the Americans to come in and you allow this fault line to deepen, that if you want Tinubu to help you, you have to support the idea that there's a Christian genocide in this country, and the Americans are welcome to come in with their troops and everything to protect Christians. How do you protect Christians? The North is so embedded between Muslims and Christians that there is no way in the world you can separate Muslims and Christians. It's one North. That's how God created us, and we have to live together. And this is very dangerous to us. We are very uncomfortable with what is going on. And you asked me a question, is 2017 going to deepen our fault lines? I am telling you it will.
You condemn the collaboration between the federal government and the United States to address the issue of insecurity as it is now.
The collaboration that goes beyond simply giving us advice and a few technical suggestions, any collaboration that involves foot on the ground, American soldiers in our land, operating in a manner where we are not fully aware of what they are involved in, and who are here motivated principally by a government and the president who says, go and protect Nigerian Christians in Nigeria. Of course, we have to be uncomfortable with it. The framing of this problem is dangerous to Nigeria, dangerous to the Christians, dangerous to the Muslims. This is wrong. And we oppose it, a lot of us oppose it, including Nigerian Christians who recognize what it is. America cannot solve the problem of the Nigerian Christian or the Nigerian Muslim. Only the Nigerian government can do that. If they want to help us, there are many ways they can help us without making us look so incompetent, so weak that we literally have.
But there are those who say that Nigeria should not be afraid to ask for help. And if boots on the ground will help.
I'm one of them. No, there are all types of help. There is the kind of help that you don't want. The kind of help that weakens you even more, and you are asking for more and more, and they're coming with 200 soldiers now, and in 2 years you could end up with literally they are telling you how to run your own country.
So you
We've seen
think,
it happen.
so it's your opinion that the federal government is making a mistake now?
Absolutely.
I think they are making a mistake, and they will make even more mistakes the more they allow American boots on the ground into Nigeria, the more they allow them access into our military, into our decision-making processes, the more Nigeria is endangered.
Dr. Baba-Ahmed, you know, some security experts say it's either the collaboration or the U.S. would make a forceful entry. It's almost as though the federal government had no option at this point.
So basically, we are a defeated nation. Either way, whichever we want. Either we come in and defeat you militarily, or you open your doors and let us in. And basically what you are saying, those two options, this is one thing. Nigeria has yielded to the US's demands that its sovereignty must be jettisoned. We are a conquered country, and every American you see on the ground is actually a representative of a... That is not a good image for this relationship.
But Dr. Ahmed, do you not think you're not you're not being fair to the Nigerian government? Because I recall listening to the Chief of Defense Staff, who said that these collaborations are done in such a way that Nigeria's sovereignty is not in any way threatened. You don't trust the government in that regard, do you?
I am judging only from the position of what I see, and I listen to this Chief of Defense Staff. If we don't need American troops, if we have to have American troops in order for us to protect Christian citizens in this country against Muslims who are undertaking genocide against them, how many troops do you think we are going to need? How many soldiers are we going to need? The problem is the country is swamped by people who are criminals, who are killing Muslims and Christians. This is not the same problem as coming in to protect Christians. Okay. This is the framing of this is the framing of the problem and the manner in which this is done. You will never hear now, of course, I think because somebody is beginning to whisper in the eyes of the Americans and our government that every time you say Christians, mention Muslims as well. The Muslims feel threatened. They are not exactly the Muslims who are law-abiding, whose faith does not allow them to kill a Christian for being a Christian. They feel threatened. Now, so you've taken a country that had one problem, and you have now multiplied that problem by creating a foreign interest in the country that will just simply deepen that problem. This is not the way to solve the problem.
Okay. Dr. Baba-Ahmed, let's go to other issues now. Let's talk about the opposition. You have a major concern with the way the president's gone about trying to capture other political parties into his fold. You've talked about that on several occasions, and perhaps what may seem like an opposition is the ADC. But even with that, you seem to have a problem with the ADC, with Atiku in it, whom you fear could likely be the presidential candidate of the party, and you say that that would negatively affect the ADC and see a mass exodus out of the party. Could you explain that and why?
Well, I offered an opinion that if I was advising Vice President Atiku, I would say, sir, at this stage of your life, you've done everything you can for the Nigerian democratic process. The challenge ahead of Nigeria now is so enormous, so daunting, so challenging, that it actually requires someone who has a little bit more energy, a little bit more stamina, perhaps less personal ambition to become president. Why don't you play the statesman? Become the person who decides the trajectory of Nigerian growth and development and democracy. Among all the people around you, all these younger people who want to be president too, decide who becomes a candidate, decides who goes with, decides what happens. Because you have given up your ambition, you've acquired the leverage to now decide what happens in the ABC. And Nigerians can see that. And if it's a southerner, go to the north and tell northerners, I want you to vote that man because he is capable of defeating President Tinubu if you are not happy about President Tinubu. And you can say to other members of this party, if you guys are serious about winning this election, let's do it the way I'm suggesting. I have sacrificed my own personal ambition. I've sacrificed my position. like all fathers do. Even in your home, you will get to a stage where your children run your home. And you be grateful to God that you've seen this day, and you can't live forever with one ambition. There are ways the democratic process gives you options. By the way, I've also advised when I left President Tinubu's administration, the job he gave me, I also advised him not to run. People don't tend to remember that. But I said, Mr. President, after 2027, please don't run. You don't have what it takes to run a country that is a lot more distressed than when you came, a lot more challenged than when you came, a lot more insecure than when you came, a lot more divided than when you came. Your record for 4 years is not inspiring. And to ask me to give you another 4 years will not be fair to the country. I said the same thing.
Interestingly, they may not take your advice. But here's what I would
Nobody
ask.
has to. Nobody has to. Nobody has to. By the way, you know that even President Atiku's people are not terribly happy with me. But I think they understand that I'm thinking of the country the same way they are.
Maybe it's because you mentioned Peter Obi when you were making your comments at the time, and you said it clearly that Peter Obi would struggle to emerge as flag bearer for the ADC. So maybe it would be their opinion that you are believing that Peter Obi will make a better candidate.
What I said about Peter Obi is that Peter Obi is in the ADC for only one thing, the ticket. And if Peter Obi doesn't get the ticket, he's likely to walk out with his supporters. And I'm still of that opinion. And a lot of people thought, he's campaigning for ADC because he's saying if Atiku gets the ticket, the party will implode and a lot of people will walk out. It's not just Peter Obi, there are a few other politicians. If you listened to Amechi a few days ago, when he mentioned the challenge before that, he said, if it is a northerner, it will be difficult for them to campaign for him. If it is a northerner, there will be a problem. If it's a northerner, they can't sell a northerner to the south. Basically, and even age and stuff like that. Basically, what he was saying is that Vice President Atiku will have a serious challenge being sold in the southern part of the country. So I'm not alone. And it's not just Obi. I'm saying there are people, powerful members of the party who are there because they are hoping they can get the ticket. Oh. They don't get, they walk out.
Well, you know, while you don't want the president to put himself forward for re-election, he will.
I've said so.
He clearly will. But the major concern now would be what level of opposition the president would face. The argument also would be that the ADC looks like the next best option or formidable opposition. It's made up of quite a number of heavyweights, which may be a problem when it's selection time or election time for them. So I ask you what your thoughts are on opposition as far as the 2027 presidential election is concerned. And if you can boldly point at persons who you don't think should run, I would like to believe that you can point at those whom you believe could run.
Where, in the APC or ADC?
Anywhere that you believe, anyone at all.
Well, I've told you two people already that I'm hoping will make the huge sacrifice in this country and not run. President Tinubu shouldn't run, and Vice President Atiku shouldn't run. I've already mentioned that. There are hundreds of qualified politicians who can run, and and out of them, maybe 10 possess the qualities of a good president who is strong enough and good enough to deal with the massive problems that this country has. I won't give you names.
Yeah,
you are asking me who should run.
In 2023, when you were when you were secretary of the Northern Elders Forum, you had the privilege of sitting among these presidential candidates, Obi, Atiku, Tinubu, and including Kwankwaso. You would know them based on the promises they made. You feel disappointed in the promises made by President Tinubu as it is now. What's the next option? What direction do you think that we could be turning? Because some believe that Peter Obi's track records stand out.
Well, records don't speak for themselves. The records have to be embodied in a person, and that person must have must be able to convince enough Nigerians across Nigeria that he represents the best hope for his future. When we assembled the 5 presidential aspirants in Kaduna here and said, speak to Nigeria, they all came. We invited 6 of them, 5 turned up, including Tinubu, including Atiku and Obi, and they spoke to Nigerians. They didn't speak to us. We said, see cameras, 100 cameras, this is Arewa House. Speak to Nigerians, tell them what you're going to going to do. And they all spoke and said, if you elect me, I will do this and I will do that, I will do that. Tinubu was elected not on the basis of what he said in Arewa House, but on the basis of the votes that he got. Tinubu's record as at now, by the end of in the next 1 year, will be assessed by Nigerians, and they will vote. Hopefully, we will have a credible electoral process. They will vote. 2027 will basically be a referendum on Tinubu's record.
Absolutely.
And Nigerians will say they were happy with him or they were not happy with him. They must be free. They must be allowed to exercise his choice over that referendum in a manner that we see as representing their will.
All right.
Don't toy around with 2027 because you will set on fire.
All right, just as we wrap up this conversation, I must say that you're a very focused person as far as national governance is concerned. But let me take you to subnational governance, Kaduna State, where you're from, and ask you what governance is like in Kaduna State.
I don't entirely live here. I think our governor is like many other governors. They're politicians. They go for the easy. They go for the optics. They want to look good. They want to be with the people. I think the verdict about our governor, like other governors, will be held back until 2027. My feeling is 2027 is there's a lot of surprises in store. To be honest with you, Terry, I think that politicians, particularly those in the APC, who already think because they have all these politicians and huge amounts of money, they think they are already bad. They are in for a surprise. In the northern part of the country where I come from, there is a lot of anger and there's a lot of disillusionment. And many people will be surprised.
Against the APC?
Yeah.
Does this include the governors? Does this include the governors? So the people know that they are supposed to hold their governors as well? Or are they just turning their attention to the
president? They know. A few weeks ago, we had the Northwest Development Commission summit here in Kaduna. We have 7 governors in this zone. The zone with the highest number of governors. Not a single governor turned up. Not one. Not one. And when I got a chance to speak, I asked the people who were there, where are our governors? These are our leaders. And the room went up in raptures. Because apparently people had observed this, but maybe I was the only one up to that point who made the point. Where are our governors? They may be trying their best, but their best is just not good enough for the condition under which now Northerners live.
Very well then.
We are desperate. We are desperate. We are poor. We are running from pillar to post with insecurity. There must be an answer to a lot of our problems. They are getting a lot of money from Abuja, locally. A lot of money from Abuja, but unfortunately, they are not solving our problems.
Very well then, Dr. Hakeem Baba-Ahmed, I'd like to thank you very much for coming to speak with me on Political Paradigm.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, I've been speaking with the chairman of the Northern Reconciliation Group and a former spokesperson of the Northern Elders Forum, Dr. Hakeem Baba-Ahmed. If you'd like to catch this conversation again, please go to YouTube and search Political Paradigm or simply go to channelstv.com. I'm Terry Kumi.